What I wanted to go over today is the market, what's going on. And things are obviously slowing down. If you're a landlord right now, the rental market is more competitive with supply. And that means that either your property price is going to go down or you're going to have to increase your marketing tactics. First topic is how to strategically price your rental. A lot of people think it's like selling a property, and that's just not the case. So I don't want you to think that, overpricing something is a bad idea, or underpricing to get a whole bunch of offers is gonna somehow create the rent rate to go up. That makes it very difficult, or that's not really how it works in the rental market. So the higher the rent rate, the less people are going to inquire on your property. And because you're not just trying to sell it, you're actually trying to rent it, you have to qualify the buyer, the person renting the property. So we want to get the highest price possible on the property, but we also don't want to outbeat the market. So with rentals, we don't ever really want to go above market for a price, because this will create more turnovers. And as a lot of landlords that are experienced know, turnovers between tenants cost you the most amount of money on your investment, because no one wants to move into a dirty property, whether they are going to pay you rent or not, or pay you high or low. So you always have to have a clean rental on day one. And the time that it takes to find that tenant, guess what? You do not have any revenue coming into the property. So turnovers are everything we're trying to avoid. And I suggest going as low as you can with your rent rate, where you can cash flow a couple $100s after your property manager, mortgage, taxes, insurance, and just your baseline costs of owning real estate. So right now we have a lot of landlords that are buying things with less cash down, making their mortgage go up, and it makes the property really feels stressful, because you're trying to make sure that you bring in a tenant that pays top dollar, maybe even higher than the market rate. And it is inevitably going to make turnovers happen more often. And that's just not going to help. So strategic pricing, how we do it is we start with what we believe is 5 to 10 cents over market rate, just to see if we have any bites, just to see if the market has shifted, because there's not a lot of data outside of, property managers like me knowing what the other 220 units are renting for, to know if the market is going in a positive or negative direction. So when you're managing one property, yes, you can go on a Zillow and look at what things are for rent in your neighborhood, but it's almost like going on a Zillow and looking what's for sale and then perceiving the for sale number as the purchase number. It's completely different. So if you're a single landlord self-managing, always test the market to see if it's going up by starting 10 cents over maybe your last square footage price you were charging the year before. So that being said, if you perceive it as $1.65 a square foot, try $1.75 and see how many people inquire. From there, you obviously need to be listing on multiple websites. So Zillow, Trulia, Rent.com, Facebook Marketplace. I have a whole video on that. Go on my YouTube channel here and click on that. You're going to see how much effort it takes, but it can pay off by the millions for sure. When you start at a 10 cents over per square foot than you were previously on your last lease, make sure to know your goal of when you wish to have this property leased. So if your goal is 4 weeks, you're trying every 7 days to get the price to a point where you have at least 3 showings a week. If you have 3 showings a week, you'll have 2 people show up a week. Those 2 people, maybe one's a great fit, but they might shop and go a different direction. And so after 4 weeks, that's kind of our minimum requirement to see action on the property and keep that price the same. If we're on the 3rd week and we're still only getting that many showings, and I have a landlord that finds it more important to find a tenant and get going compared to get higher rent, which again, I've got videos on when you should dip and when you should stick to your number. But on the 3rd week, if you're still only seeing about 3 people schedule a showing per week, you probably need to start another 5 to 10 cents below your square foot that you were previously at. And then you give it some breathing time, 5 to 7 days to see, did you get 4 or 5 people to schedule a viewing? And that's really the name of the game, 5 to 10 cents at a time until you can get 3 showings per week minimum. Tip number 2, tenant retention. Obviously, we don't want these people moving out every single year, like I previously said. So what we want to do is try to have that conversation with them way out from when their lease is done, so that way we know if they're going to stay or go. A well-paying tenant is worth its weight in gold over trying to risk vacancy. A lot of times I see landlords that get greedy in that sense, and they'll start really ticking their brain on like, how much more can I get? How much more can I get? Let them walk, whatever. And then our third thing that we do, the third tip for making sure your property does not bleed of cash flow in a slowing market, is proactive marketing. I had a South Knoxville property that had some UT students in it for 2 years. They just moved out because some of them graduated and the others couldn't find roommates to make the deal happen. And we pre-marketed that 100 days out from the lease ending. And it actually set us up to have only 2 weeks of vacancy and find new tenants to put back in. And when it's student housing, it's even more important to pre-market, because if you don't get them late spring into early summer, you're probably not going to find students. And then that rent rate is going to be significantly lower than what you previously had. But again, if you can follow pre-marketing, 60 to 90 days out minimum, if you can strategically negotiate with your current tenant to build out a lease where they stay another year, and then if you can make sure that you are watching your pricing every week, every 3 to 5 days, pay attention to that if you do have a vacancy that's on market, and just tweak it every 5-10 cents a square foot at a time. Pay attention to it. I'm always trying to bat under 4 weeks of vacancy for my landlords. I think that right now, the last 57 leases we have signed, our average on market time is 27 days. And it's because some properties sit because we've pre-marketed it during a tenant currently living, and it makes it difficult to get the showings to happen, so that skews our data to look like we're having longer vacancies. But then other times, we have a vacant property up, and it just goes in a couple days. It's crazy. So don't ever get scared and underprice your rental on the first day. Always fight for more cash flow, but be willing to drop quick and make that decision, because you are trying to control a bleed. Because anytime a tenant's not in the property, no revenue, not for the property manager, and not certainly for the landlord. So I hate vacant properties. Right now, we have 5 vacant rentals out of the 220 we manage. So I'm feeling really good about that. Again, if you follow these 3 strategies, you're going to create passive income for yourself, and you're going to be on the road to retirement, and it's going to be a successful experience for you and your investment. Finally, the shout out. I need to get myself a shout out. Subscribe below, ring the bell, get notified every week when we post these videos. I want you to become a better landlord. If anything out of this channel, stop managing like an amateur, start managing like a pro, start learning from somebody like me that's got so many properties. I mess up so often. I learn so much from it, and learn through my channel, because I post about mistakes. I post about new things I learn all the time, and also the strategies I use to scale, because property management, you can't be successful in this business unless you're good at scaling, because we have to be so efficient with our time when it comes to maintenance concerns, leasing questions, lease renewals, bookkeeping. It all has to be documented and organized and completed, and we're talking hours, not days. So comment below your thoughts on this video. If it was a no duh, Dan, that was obvious, or did you learn something? If you have a question, I'm always in the comments as well. I am not a big YouTuber yet, so we are going to be responding to every single person. Rent's due. See ya.